Hey guys, welcome back to another McFarlane Toys action figure review. Today we're taking a look at Plague Spawn from the Spawn comic series. On the back of the box we have comic book art of the physical cover of issue 313, and on the side we have a close-up of the same artwork. McFarlane Toys are easy to remove from the package without having to tear anything open. But like all other McFarlane toy releases, in order to get the standout, you will have to tear open the plastic. Plague Spawn was introduced in issue 315, where he was unreleased from captivity while Spawn and Medieval Spawn were battling Omega Spawn. Plague Spawn was one of the first symbiotes to exist, created from the very first Hellspawn's body. The Lord of Hell, Malbogia, and Violator used the remains of the first Hellspawn to create the prototype symbiote. The first of those results was Plague Spawn. Plague Spawn proved to be too powerful and uncontrollable. Able to overthrow the Masters of Hell, Plague Spawn was seen as a mistake and imprisoned in the darkest pit in Hell for eternity. Soon after Plague Spawn's escape, he was somehow captured by the Russian army and used in experiments to create human Plague Spawn hybrids. His story would then continue in the Spawn spin-off comics The Scorched. Let's take a look at the details. The skeletal head is covered in black and ash colored skin, making this figure's skin look burnt and decayed. The eye sockets and mouth glow yellow, with red skin covering the holes and teeth of the face. The side has more definition in the sculpting of the head, with the black skin stretched tightly on the skull, showing off the bone structure with more of that ashy white texture on the back. On the chest, the body looks more slimy, with the white on the center starting to resemble mold with a wet appearance. The iconic Spawn stripes on the chest can be seen here, but are carved into the skin, with muscle fibers underneath giving the appearance of an open wound. Some muscle tone can also be seen sculpted, like the chest muscles and abs. On the top of the back, we have an explosion of strands of fiber, resembling the texture of a mushroom's mycelium. The strands are painted in a fading white to black appearance, with small flakes of white dots all over. On the shoulder we have more human-like muscles, with bulgy biceps detailed with small spikes coming out of the skin. On the left arm we have a pointed claw hand, with one finger pointing outward. The hand has strands of black and gray spikes all over each finger and arm. On the other side, the hands are opened in a grasping position, with the fingers covered in small spikes and a visible fungal texture on the arms. On the waist, the Spawn stripes merge together, forming a V at the front. More of the suit's slimy texture can be seen, especially on the open wound stripes. We have a similar pattern on the back, with the Spawn stripes also forming a V on the backside of the suit. The skin is once again detailed with a light gray dry brush, highlighting the textured skin. The thighs have some large muscles sculpted into them, with the entire area covered in that moldy, charred skin. Small spikes come out of the calves of the legs, with the entire area getting painted heavily in a gray dry brush. We finish off the detail with the boots of the figure. A small wrinkled foot, with large claws sticking out of the toes. Let's take a look at the articulation. We have a ball-jointed head. The skinny neck gives it a good range of motion. Shoulders that open and rotate all around. Biceps that rotate. Double-jointed elbows that bend inward, with a great range of motion on the skinny arms. Wrists that bend up and down and rotate. A ball joint at the chest that bends backward more than forward. And we have the same deal with the ball joint at the waist, able to bend backward and a very little forward motion. Legs that open and bend forward, with the sculpting on the butt blocking backwards motion. And little to no thigh rotation. Double jointed knees that bend all the way back. Ankles that bend up and down and rotate, with a foot that twists and a toe that bends upward. Plague Spawn has a skinny frame, but he's just as tall as all the other McFarlane Spawn releases. Here I pose him with some Spawn figures and from other McFarlane releases as well. We get a pair of human-sized grasping hands in the same paint job. To install the hands, you can easily pop out the original hands and tightly socket in the new hands. They'll have the same range of motion as well. We get a skull rock formation base that has a peg on it to attach the figure onto. And we get the standard McFarlane stand with the Spawn logo on it. McFarlane is rapidly catching up with the comic series, releasing action figures of new characters at a quick pace. Plague Spawn was introduced fairly recently along with many other versions of Spawn, so it's really cool to see a quick turnaround on the figures. Like all the other new characters, the story is developing, so it's really up to the comics to see how much of an impact this character will have in the story. The action figure does differ a bit from the comic, as the action figure has a rough, almost burnt-like skin, while the comics uses a more wet, smooth skin. The alternate hands the figure comes with is always a nice bonus. It helps out with different posing expressions and gives these figures a bit more value to them. The included skull base is also a great addition, as the figure's own mini diorama gives it some more style to the figure, and even if you don't use it, it's still a nice prop to have around. The detail on the figure always impresses me with McFarlane toys. The sculpting is always top notch and filled with extremely small details all over the body. My only complaint on the figure is the lack of torso articulation. The figure bends back well enough, but not forward for crunching poses. Even this slim body struggles without modding. One of my favorite things about this figure is how it can fit into any collection. As a demonic looking villain, Plague Spawn can pair up with any other figure to fight against, or even army build as a legion of Hellspawn. These characters are completely new to the Spawn series and toy collections, so this might be your only chance to get a Plague Spawn figure in this version. He definitely makes a great villain figure, especially a demonic one that's not really seen out in stores these days. He's worth checking out, especially if you're following along in the comics. Plague Spawn is about everything you can expect from a standard McFarlane figure. Alright guys, that's it for this review. Leave a comment letting me know how you like this figure, subscribe, or give me a like to help out the channel.